Should Britain exist?
Yeah, kind of. The question. This is an article raised by a chap called Nesreen Malik. Now, Nesreen Malik is
Lady.
no, it's a man.
No, it's a lady.
Is it?
Yeah.
I thought it was a man. Okay, now I'm lost and confused. Okay, Nesreen Malik.
I'm sure they can identify as a man, so don't
Oh,
worry
yeah,
about
exactly.
it.
Don't be a bigot. But the point is, Nesreen is a left-wing Muslim Guardian columnist. And so what this means is that Nesreen Malik has spent her entire professional career saying Britain is an evil white supremacist place and we should get rid of it. And now she's like, oh, compulsory worship of national symbols is the sure sign of a culture in decline. That's correct. Because the West is in decline, and there's no particular disputing this, I think. I mean, where are Western values not in retreat? Where is democracy not in retreat? Where is law and order not being undermined? Where does the moral force come from which to push back? It seems to have become entirely absent.
South Korea, maybe?
Possibly.
Not the West.
But that's, not the West, and that surely is because the alternative is a dictatorial regime.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree that the compulsory worship of national signals is indeed this sign of a weakness of Western culture. We have, after all, been undermined for more than a century by communist subversion, and so now we have the weak and frail further commitment to the icons of the now undermined order. It won't change the flow of the forces that have caused this erosion. And that's true. That's a good point, I think, that Malik's raising. And she gives us an example of what's happened in Islam, which I actually think is really interesting. The prohibition of the images of the Prophet Muhammad is widely accepted today, but because there are so many historical examples, it shows that this wasn't always the case. There is, of course, but she also notes that there's no such instruction in the Quran. Obviously, they say don't be idolatrous, but they don't say don't paint a picture of the Prophet Muhammad, because why would they? I mean, it's pretty condescending to think that Muslims are so dumb they can't tell the difference between a picture of Prophet Muhammad and God. You'd have to be really dumb. No, this picture is what organizes the world. This picture flew up to heaven to see itself in heaven and then flew back down and is now on my wall. I am a true... I mean, Muslims are not that stupid. We're going to credit them with a bit more brain power than that. Which is fair, But this is the point, right? She says the pre-Islamic aversion to idol worship was shared by all the monotheistic religions, and this wore away depictions of Muhammad in Islamic art. But this was only a prelude to the modern charge of blasphemy, which arrived in the 20th century after the Muslim world had fractured into nation states. This is a very interesting point worth considering because it shows like the damage that the Enlightenment has effectively done to Islam. Because really, under Islam, there should be a united caliphate, right? The ideal Muslim view of the world would be all of those people under the caliph who essentially has the kind of role of the Pope and the person who makes ideological or religious prescriptions.
I mean, this would be the Islamic fundamentalist position.
Yeah, and that's why they're trying to set one up.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem with Islamic fundamentalism is the fundamentals of Islam.
Yeah, and then there's just, the nature of the thing, and I'm not saying it's good or bad, it's just that's how Islam is. And so Malik says, the modern Muslim-majority nation-state is a weak and unwieldy creature. From across Africa and South Asia, colonial forces lumped together disparate tribes and languages, drew boundary lines around them, and then abruptly decamped to Europe. I love the way they say abruptly decamped, as if we did something wrong by leaving. But then she's not wrong.
How dare you come conquer us again?
Well, yeah.
Based.
But she's not wrong, and it has left these previously tribal areas that were built around sort of private relationships between the head man of various tribes and various kings and warlords and things like that. They've left with actually something different, which is a separate structure of a nation state. So they've been given a bunch of Western inspired institutions and said, right, okay, now operate. And they're like, well, this isn't how things work. And so Islam becomes the common denominator among these tribes because they don't see themselves as a people in the same way that the European nations see themselves as a people that can be politicized into a nation state. They weren't nations. And that's why you get the problem with Iraq. And everyone's like, oh, the Kurds, what are we going to do about the Kurds? It's like, I don't know. I mean, in the European view, we'd give them a nation state, but you can't do that because you've already given nation states to things that aren't nations. And I don't want to go into it, but like, it's the point is, as she says, the ruling elites have fastened onto Islam as a binding agent, right? And so from this, it was an easy step to pick out some sacred icons, such as the image of the Prophet, and to draw arbitrary theological red lines useful for dispensing with political opponents. The story of blasphemy in contemporary Islam isn't about doctrine; it's about decline and dictatorship. And that's true. I think that if you have a particularly thin and abstract binding agent, then it isn't very useful. Actually, the relationships between the people and the way they see themselves is much more firm, which is why England has been a united nation for over 1,000 years. And I imagine will continue to be a united nation even if the United Kingdom itself breaks up. But anyway, she says, there's a lesson in this tale for all of us. The more the society is preoccupied by its symbols, the more insecure it has become. And I think that's true. In the UK, the Conservative government and its court press have seized upon the veneration of national symbols as a consolation for a decade of economic pain and social fracture. We used to visit our historical landmarks, and now we must swear allegiance to them. What do you reckon?
I mean, sort of true, but I think she's going to give the example of like the Winston Churchill statue or something, right?
Yeah.
And that's at least false, because I know the example that she'll say, well, the police walk around it and defend it from the leftists who turned up and were graffitiing it and attacking it. But they would do exactly the same for any other statue. Like if the, Emily Pankhurst or whatever, one of the feminist statues down there, had the same treatment from, I don't know, like a mob of misogynists who go down there and just, like,
go down there
destroy
with their Chad jaws.
Something like this. The police would do exactly the same thing and protect it. So, I mean, it's kind of bold to say that this is a huge thing that we're doing with that example, I believe.
But she's talking more metaphorically, as in we are forced to find ourselves with a commitment to Winston Churchill as a sort of world historic figure in the mythology of what the United Kingdom itself is or was during the 20th century. Because the titanic struggle with the Nazis was obviously something that shaped the post-war character of the British and changed them. And so Winston Churchill being a kind of core part of that makes Winston Churchill a bit of an icon for British and Britishness.
Sure. And this all comes from the fact that you're sort of losing, well, the nation's faith in just being British has been eroded. Yeah. But a lot of that, I mean, as Peter Hitchens will correctly point out, I think comes from leftist institutions. They want
I'm not going to let the left off the hook here. They're the ones who've done all
Yeah, she's like, oh no, it's been attacked so much. Yeah, by who? It's you.
Yeah, you.
So.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not suggesting this happened naturally and it was completely just, it just happened. It's just the way things are. No, it's been a deliberate attack on the concept of Britain and Britishness. And that raises the question then, why are there so many people in Britain who are opposed to Britain and would attack British culture and statues and icons? Why do they want to do that? And the answer seems to be that it's a sort of radicalized youth who know nothing about the world and history apart from a very tiny sliver of leftist curated history of oppression. But even then, that's like not the end of the world. The question really is, why did we let this happen? But anyway, she carries on. We are not meant to study and scrutinise a figure such as Winston Churchill. He is now an icon who must be protected from blasphemers. And in a way, that's true, especially with like the boomers. Britain's statues are now symbols of national anxiety, each one a concrete voodoo doll, which, if pricked, will cause the whole country to bleed. They now enjoy the over-the-top police protection, with political bodyguards introducing harsher punishments to protect statues from baying mobs. This referring to the 10-year sentence that you can get for tearing down a statue now. And I agree. I mean, 10 years is way over the top.
Yeah.
But why did they feel the need to do this? And the reason they felt the need to do this is because they felt weak. This is not a position of strength they're operating from. But the question is, why do we have baying mobs? Because we allowed them to happen. Why did we allow them to happen? Well, it was our moral weakness that allowed this to happen. When the communists spent all of their time attacking British culture, British values, and British propriety, we should have resisted them on the grounds that they are communists attacking us. We should exactly the same with Ian Smith. It's like why are you even giving any countenance to the communist allegations of racism? Why would you care? It's coming out of the mouth of a communist. It literally cannot be taken as anything other than an attack. And Nesrine has written other articles saying, I'm being accused of doing Britain down because I'm constantly saying Britain's crap. And it's like, yeah, okay, well that should have been unacceptable then, shouldn't it? The people at the Guardian are like, why the hell are we hosting this subversive stuff? This person's trying to undermine Britain. Why are we doing this? And
Yeah, don't I live here?
yeah, don't I live here? Exactly.
But I think you're right about the moral part. I think there's also a practical part that needs to be mentioned with regards to the situation in the UK. So
Okay.
when the Edward Colston statue was taken down, the law, I believe, was that you would be charged for the damage done to X statue. But the police chief in charge of that area when this was going on gave a statement saying, well, why didn't you intervene? And he said, well, because I didn't want to cause a scene. It was like, I
Yeah.
didn't want to cause a ruckus in which we'd have to defend it. And it was
Yeah.
like, right, okay, so that's a problem of enforcement of the law.
It's a problem of moral fortitude. That's what that problem is.
Sure.
The police have got every right. It is proper for the police to stop a mob from tearing down a statue, no matter what the mob believes and no matter who's the statue of, right? There is a democratic process that we can go through. You can have a town hall meeting in Bristol. You can have a vote in Bristol and say, right, do we want the statue? No, we don't want the statue. And this is how it should have been done, in a civil way. And so the police, with the obligation to protect civil society, have every moral justification they ever need to stop a mob tearing down a statue.
The police do. I'm just making that point with regards to the Home Office.
Well, no, but
So-
but the reason that connects to the police chief in Bristol, he's like, well, I just didn't want to do it. Why? Why didn't you want to do it? You should do it. It's the right thing to do is for you to have stopped that mob. I don't care if you're sympathetic. I don't care if you think that Edward Colston deserves it or whatever. Who cares? What matters is there are standards.
Yeah.
And the standard is you don't act like a bloody mob tearing things down that you don't like.
And I agree with the standards. But the Home Office, like, let's say you're Priti Patel and you're being told that the police officers on the ground
Yeah.
literally just aren't enforcing the law. So the only weapon you have is to just bump up the charge for doing such a thing.
Yeah, but
And that's part of the reason I think she went for like 10 years or
Oh,
what the
abso-
ridiculous law was.
absolutely. But Nesrin Malik isn't wrong when she says that, look, this reveals the fundamental weakness of the moral structure of British culture.
Happens with the police and it has that effect at the Home
Yeah,
Office.
exactly. If the Bristol's chief of police doesn't have the moral fortitude to be able to enforce the laws and defend the way things should be done in this country, then someone else is just going to roll in and do exactly as they please, which is what we're seeing here.
You are the police, after all.
Yeah.
I don't know how else you're expecting to enforce the rules.
Yeah, what? Exactly. Why are you like, well, I didn't want to cause a scene? What are you talking about? You didn't want to cause a scene? What the? Anyway, right? It just doesn't make any
Yeah,
sense.
it is mind-numbing.
But the thing is, what it does reveal is a complete moral collapse, right? It's like, you cause the scene because these people are attacking the moral framework of this country.
Yeah. Like if they were
That's
attacking
why you cause the scene.
one of those police vans with like the massive gay flag on it with being offensive is an offence.
Yeah.
And they started attacking that, what would you have done?
Exactly. You would have been all over them. Oh, no, we're going to cause this scene. And that's the point. Anyway, she carries on. And then, of course, there is the flag, the latest icon to be invested with a sanctity that demands it be flown longer and larger. The government has decreed after the summer that the flag should fly on all official buildings every day rather than 20 days a year. No longer is it just jolly bunting on special occasions. This is the endpoint of a journey that began when Nigel Farage took a small Union flag and placed it in front of him at the European Parliament. In all its absurdity, that moment comes closest to representing what the flag came to symbolise today, a false but potent claim of liberation from oppressive forces. Oh, the irony from the side that claims that that flag is an oppressive force. Just saying. But I think that Farage and Boris truly do believe in the values and the people that the flag is meant to represent. Whereas, of course, the Islamists and leftists like Malik, Islamo-leftists, in fact, I should just say. Well, no, she is an Islamo-leftist.
Yeah, I just love that Macron's made that. as
It
popular
is
term.
based Macron's Islamo-leftism is rearing its head here. But these people don't. They hate the flag and the civilization that it represents. And this does represent a clash of civilizations. Someone from the alien civilization does not understand what the flag is meant to represent and naturally, therefore, sees nothing sacred in it. However, someone like Nigel Farage sees the flag as a point of moral pride and a point, and the things that it represents, a moral force that he can push forward with, which is why he puts it on the European stand. And good, I would have done the same.
I mean, especially when the European Union in that case was literally saying you can't bring flags because they want to make a European superstate.
Yeah. So Nigel Farage being like, no, I'm British, I'll do as I want. That's the proper thing to do. But the thing is, if your values are in opposition to the values represented by the British flag, then why wouldn't you tear it down, which is what they were doing at Pimlico Academy? deliberately tearing it down and painting on the walls, there's no black in the Union Jack. Like, why wouldn't you tear it down? Because you don't respect the moral order that this flag represents. It's only natural that the people who then look at you attacking the representation of their moral order would cling to that symbol more firmly and with more pride. But again, it does demonstrate the weakness on the part of the old order. Your enemies are surrounding you and enclosing you and moving in and attacking things that you held dear. Why are they wrong to do it? That's what the Conservatives need to do. Explain why it is wrong to oppose the British moral order. And they can't. But they have to. They have to be able to morally defend themselves. They can't just say, well, this is the flag and therefore. That's not a persuasive argument, and it's disappointing. But anyway, she carries on. That contrived sense of persecution and affront inspires powerful emotions that can easily turn dissent into treason. In a chilling episode last month, a BBC presenter had to apologise for liking tweets mocking the size of a flag in a minister's office. And I agree that it is kind of pathetic that that's something that we have to care about. Like, I wouldn't have forced the BBC presenter to unlike or, apologise for liking a tweet. But look at where we are. Why? Why was she thinking this way? Why was she like, oh God, you've got a British flag behind you, and you see her laughing? It looked pathetic. It looked like it was like, what are you doing? Like this. I felt like it would be the way I would laugh if I had found myself accidentally in a furry convention and they had a giant furry flag and they're like, yeah, furry rights, furry pride. I would be laughing in exactly the same way that she was laughing at the British flag. And so it's like, why have we got to this point? Why is the Britain's public broadcaster staffed with presenters that demean and belittle our national symbols? Why is that the case? How did this come? Like, Malik and her fellow comrades are just not self-aware enough to understand that they are the occupiers of this space of a civilization that is in retreat. And it's only through articles like this that we get glimpses of this kind of self-understanding of what they've done. We ruined this, is what they're saying.
I don't really understand your previous point about the fact that you would be in the same situation laughing at it.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, if I was... Because I don't believe in anything in it. I see it as being antiquated. I see it as being embarrassing. I see it as being cringe.
Having the flag in the government office?
Yeah, but yes, in exactly the same way.
Why?
Because I don't believe in it. Because I don't agree. I don't have the same narrative about Britain and the moral structures of Britain that the people who are complaining do. And she couldn't even understand. I mean, for her, it was a laughable thing to have a British flag or a big British flag there. It's like, well, why? I mean, I don't see anything laughable about it, but then I believe that the things that Britain stood for were actually good things, whereas she doesn't. She views these things in the same way that I view a furry flag, or a My Little Pony convention or something like this. She's looking at it with the same kind of derision and kind of, cringe, repulsion. It's like, oh God, why would I do that? I've spent all this time demonizing and belittling this thing. Why would I consider that piece? Oh God. And now I'm being told off. Oh, I guess the bronies are mad at me. This is how she's thinking about it.
It's especially weird coming from them because I remember watching the coverage of Prince Charles's funeral, and they had people from all over the Commonwealth calling into the BBC. And you'd have like the head of state, and there was the one from Malta. It was like the Maltese flag, and then the European Union flag as large as possible. And it's just like, you can't complain about people having flags in government offices when you've got stuff like that.
But the thing is, this is the way. If you had to have a big European flag or something, and someone was pointing out, you'd find it cringe and laugh at it too. But that's the way that she views it. But anyway, we're running out of time, so I'll try and move on a bit. The BBC's new Director General hastened to reassure the furious public, that his staff are very proud of being British, which they're obviously not, and the Union flag flies proudly over Broadcasting House on most days. That's a short step from demanding the sort of prostration to the holiness of national emblems to wielding it to marshal people in line. It's like, that's true. That's there's no way people believe that people at the BBC are proud to be British, or that they give a damn about the flag or the country, right? And so why are we even discussing this? In what way would it be improper for the BBC to fly a British flag? The only way it could be improper is if the BBC did not support British values and had adopted a new set of values, which is evidenced by the presenter laughing at the very idea of the flag. It just doesn't go back 100 years, and this would never have been the case. Absolutely never been. This unthinkable, right? And so it seems that it's essentially an admission of impropriety on the part of Malik and the BBC anchors, who are amused by the idea of flying a British flag, in the same way that I'd be amused at flying the EU flag. It is a relic of a past order to which we have no moral commitment. And that's it fundamentally. Right? And if you don't have a moral commitment to the previous order, then it's an embarrassment. You'd rather get rid of it, which is kind of sad. But anyway, I'll skip over the last bit because we're running out of time, because it was just me saying, well, who did this to us? Well, obviously the left did
Just
this
one
to
correct.
us.
I meant Prince Philip, not Prince Charles. I don't know why I said Charles.
All right, I didn't even catch
Chat's like the carbs are going to your head.
that. the chat is not wrong. But yeah, so basically, who's done this to us? Well, communists. Islamo-leftists have done this to us, like you, Nazreen Malik.
Like, you're usually so proud of it as well. That's what's weird.
And now you've realised that you're actually, oh my god, have we actually done some damage here? You've done tremendous damage here. If you enjoyed this segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can watch the full broadcast live every weekday at 1 PM UK time on lotuseaters.com.